Okay, today we're going to be learning how to draw puppet figures. This is the start to a realistic figure. We're beginning with a puppet figure which actually stems from the bone structure of the human. So I have some bones up here on the screens to refer to help us in our sketching today. It's important to understand the anatomy underneath the skin in order to draw a realistic person. So we're starting with bones, and then we'll move to muscles, and then we'll move to cloth. So bones actually can be really complicated if you're drawing every single one. We are not going to draw every single bone. We're going to focus on three main masses, one being the head or the skull, two being the rib cage, and three being this pelvis kind of butterfly shape. Now, most of you guys are off to a great start because if I ask you to draw a person, I get this a lot, which is great. Everyone knows how to draw that famous stick man. You are off to a great start because you are already focusing on one main mass, and that's the head. That comes from the skeletal structure. So we are going to draw our first little puppet figure together. I like to call it a glorified stick man. We're gonna give ourselves a skull, which is our first main mass that we're gonna focus on. Then we're gonna move down to the rib cage, which is connected with the spine. So if you want to draw that stem of the stick man, like I said, you're off to a great start. That's going to represent our spine, and then we're going to place our rib cage with a second oval/sphere on top of that spine. Okay, two circles. This represents the rib cage or the ribs. We have one main mass, we have two main masses. Okay. Below that, if you keep the spine moving down, we run into our last main mass, which is the pelvis. This can be drawn a couple different ways. In today's lesson, I'm just going to use kind of an upside down triangle with a little dent at the top to represent the pelvis. Okay, and that is our third main mass. From there, we have appendages, arms and legs. So the legs come out of the pelvis. They do move down to our kneecaps. We're going to represent joints with little circles. There's a joint here, there's a joint here. That's where we can lift our leg and it'll pivot. Here's our knee. We can lift our leg and it will bend. And then down from there, we have our lower leg, our shin bone, and then our feet come out from there. Okay. Moving back up to the top, the rib cage. Now we do have arms looking at the bone structure. Those arms are not attached to the rib cage. In fact, we have a little tiny bone called the clavicle, which is right here, that pulls out, that holds our shoulder out from the rib cage. If you look at the back view, we have these shoulder blades that pull out, and then our shoulder is out from the rib cage there. So looking at a frontal view using a basic puppet figure, we're just going to draw two little lines coming out to represent those clavicle bones. Just for today's lesson, to keep it simple, let's say our shoulders are right there. That's where it pivots. Our upper arm comes down, and in fact our elbow is going to line up with our belly button, which is right at the base of our rib cage. And then our lower arm comes down and our hands fall about halfway on our thighs. Okay, so you can kind of get the basic length of those arms if you refer to your thighs. Okay, and I'm just drawing a little mitten for now. It doesn't have to be a perfect size. It doesn't have to be the same. We're just focusing on our three main masses and our lines and dots for the appendages and the joints. Okay, and that's our basic glorified puppet figure that we're going to be using to build our realistic person. Okay, so try this. Then what I would recommend, after you kind of get your basic drawing, yes, it might be out of proportion. It might be too big, too small. We're going to put it into proportion in our next lesson. But what I might encourage you to do is find some silhouettes of people and practice plopping in your three main masses, where they should go, and just practice seeing it in action, because it's helpful to see them in motion on a realistic person. And if you have a little silhouette to guide you, it makes it a little bit easier to pull in. Okay, so give that a try. See what you can do.